Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the latest candidate for Kingdom Hearts, a charming Disney princess tale where the Disney princess in question will not show up until the second installment of the franchise, but I digress nonetheless. Welcome to the ever Disney Plus accessible, child-friendly, happiest place on the world film, one that takes place in outer space, Alien. Wait a minute.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, believe it or not, even before Disney had bought the Alien franchise, along with everything under the Fox umbrella, Alien did almost get into Disney World at some point. It was the extraterrestrial Alien Encounter in Tomorrowland, which
Did
would
it add
later be replaced.
xenomorph morphs in it?
Yes, yes, it did actually.
Weird.
It would later be replaced by the Lilo and Stitch ride,
Yeah, you mentioned
Stitch's
that
Great
when we did
Escape.
Mission to Mars. Still weird.
Yeah, how about that? Knowing that Mission to Mars shares some history with the Alien franchise and Lilo and Stitch of all
I mean, I
things.
remember that they wanted to make a 90s cartoon out of this franchise, so once again, it's yet another R-rated franchise that Hollywood wanted desperately to turn PG-13 because apparently these would have sold more tickets. But
Although they
thankfully, it
did,
did not happen, as far as I know.
yeah, they did have to make modifications since, shock of all shocks, the idea for the alien encounter was considered a bit inappropriate. So essentially, it was technically an alien encounter, but without the xenomorphs in it, essentially.
So the film was directed by Ridley Scott, a British director who was, this film's credited for putting him on the map. The screenplay was written by the late Daniel O'Bannon, who previously wrote films like Dark Star, was a computer animator on Star Wars, and he would go on to make The Return of the Living Dead. He would co-write the Total Recall 1990 film and wrote the story treatment for the first Alien versus Predator.
And yeah, with
Right.
the music done by Jerry Goldsmith with a big asterisk on it, but that has to be explained while the movie goes on.
It also stars John Hurt, Ian Holm, Yaphet Kotto, who I mainly know for playing the main villain in Live and Let Die, and some random person called Sigourney Weaver.
We will build off on that a bit more, but that will be for a surprise later down the road. The budget was $8.4 to $14 million. Bit of a range. Thankfully, the box office would pay off massively with $188 million. For a horror film, very, very good. In fact, one could argue that this is one of the horror films that helped really set the stage for it. Like, now, Jaws may have been the movie that created the concept of the summer blockbuster, but Alien would go on to inspire almost its own subgenre of space horror, essentially. Yeah, Metroid owes a lot to Alien. Even so much the namesake of the main villain Ridley, based off of Ridley Scott, essentially.
Alright,
Yeah.
so for the sake of you audience, there are technically two versions of this movie, the theatrical cut and the actor's cut. There are only a very specific few sets of difference, but only one is worth, pointing out, and that's towards the end of the movie. However, Disney has decided that the version that they want to distribute on Disney Plus is the theatrical cut, so for this case, I'm willing to, accept that's the version that we're watching, at least for now. Again, the Theatrical Cut, like I said, doesn't really have anything substantial that cannot be told. For the sequels, that would be a different story. But for this first movie, that's basically the version we're watching, so that's how, you need to be in sync with us. Specifically, just a very few seconds before the old 20th Century Fox logo.
Alright, well, without beating around the bush, you head right there, and we'll clue you in with our usual countdown. Then get ready to blast off in 3, 2, 1, click. As you know, here at SCWRM, we typically do like to cover the most extensive directorial cut, or in cases where the cuts are completely different stories, both. But yes, as Theo has elucidated, this will be one rare occasion where we stick with the theatrical cut. Part of that is that, yes, this is the version people are more likely to see. And secondly, well, yeah, there's no way of beating around the bush. The theatrical cut is what's considered canon, partly due to how there's a certain thing from the extended cut which affects kind of the trajectory of the franchise, essentially, most notably the second movie.
Again, the first sequel already to these Aliens already has an extended cut which has significant more differences, a total of extra like almost 20 minutes, more footage. So that will have to be a different story.
Right. So, in terms of what Ridley Scott did before this movie, two things: a film called The Duelists, which I
The most famous Yu-Gi-Oh movie.
It's about two French army officers under Napoleon having a disagreement.
Okay.
And it stars Harvey Keitel as a Frenchman. And a perfume advert for Chanel No. 5. Maybe he did like other adverts, I'm not
I
sure.
think Icarus did talk about one that he did, but I forgot which specific one it was. Also cute that
it was like for Hovis bread.
Also cute that the title just slowly reveals itself on top.
Yeah, could you imagine if the first letters for the
Is
it just me? No, were the first letters for the first letters fully formed were LIE. So this movie is a lie.
Also, it's like Bravely Default.
I think they were anyway. I don't know. I could be wrong.
So yeah,
our movie takes place in the far future, where essentially the equivalent of a trucker drivers convoy are basically refining some ore.
Yeah, one of the strong points of this movie is that instead of actually having to star the, macho, the futuristic space marines that books like Starship Troopers had popularized for science fiction, instead it portrays a bunch of space truckers. Not necessarily, the wimpiest kids in town, but just, regular people who do commissions, delivery jobs and all.
You see, kids, this could be you doing your duty
on a grungy spaceship for a really greedy company.
So I mean, Dweebs, I can definitely see a far future where Grubhub actually jeopardizes its drivers for something like this.
As of too small, imagine Amazon conquering the universe with their delivery system.
Oh boy. Jeff Bezos will probably want the elixir of eternal youth. As of when we're recording this, I finished watching all the Alien movies a few months ago. They range very up and down in quality.
I pretty much have not watched any Alien movies past Prometheus, and in fact, I haven't really even watched Prometheus.
You haven't watched Covenant?
Nah, I never got around to it.
I will say that it's technically an improvement over Prometheus, but that's not a high bar to set, and even then, the end result is, well, you'll have to see.
Covenant
that film was just extremely big.
Covenant sounds like the Alien equivalent to Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom.
Do you want to see Michael Fassbender with the tag self-cessed for the story? Well, your oddly specific kink has been, properly fulfilled, viewer.
I swear, Michael Fassbender gets into some really weird projects.
So yeah,
yes, remember guys, in the future, we will indeed be reverting to this old analog of computer.
Well, okay, I don't know if it was super deliberate or, just because they did not have any, other opportunities to do, but this helps give an identity to the movie and the franchise as a whole. The idea that even in this far future, the tech is still bulky, retro-inspired to an extent, and as such, not super optimal. It paints a couple of things, like for example, that this particular vessel, despite everything, is not super optimized and things will take time for anything to work properly, which will create sense of tension. And this has been weaponized for the rest of the franchise as a result. That being said, apparently we have mastered cryosleep pods just in a flower shape because this movie and the franchise as a whole loves to have visual symbolism.
The future.
I love how this implies that the trips are still so long and crap that they have to cryo-freeze themselves, which kind of implies they may not even get to see their loved ones that they left on Earth again.
Don't you see, Jova? If Chris Pratt actually awakens before and actually, frees Sigourney Weaver, it would be fine.
Oh, goodness gracious. Has anyone... I think I recall seeing actually a fan fiction crossing over Passengers and Alien now that you mention it.
Okay, time to talk about a bit of the score. Jerry Goldsmith specifically wanted to evoke stuff from 2001: A Space Odyssey by having the beginning score to be more resembling, original, but still resembling stuff like the Blue Danube, which that movie had, to symbolize, the, oh, it's so cool when mankind is in space. Ridley Scott took a look at the entire product, not just specifically for that segment, and promptly, threw it in the trash, at least 70% of it. This is why a lot of the scenes do not have a score, because Ridley Scott was very hands-on with the project.
He didn't want Jerry Goldsmith to begin with. So.
Yeah, like I said, he wanted a Japanese composer, which I forgot the name of. So instead, I think the Fox executive assigned him to him, he had to basically, deal with it.
So here's a lot of our main actors, and oh yeah, there's this nobody, Sigourney Weaver. Okay, yeah, it's obvious now, but fun fact for those who don't know, Sigourney Weaver was specifically the most newcomer of the actors here. Which meant she was the most liable to die in a horror film.
Let's see.
Or so people thought.
The late Ian Holmes, we knew these days mostly because of his work on Lord of the Rings as Bilbo Baggins, but he has a lot of, things under his belt, like, for example, David Cronenberg's Existence movie. But up until this point, his career, I don't recognize that many movies that he had done. He started acting like 10 years before when it came to both TV and movies, roughly. Let's see, John Hurt, we know him thanks to a lot of different roles. For example, Doctor Who fans will remember him as the War Doctor, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Yeah, he too had started acting like roughly 10 years before this. Go on, Julia.
You may recall from movies like Event Horizon that a lot of space operas do like to do homages to shots from this movie. Dark Corridors, the
very
sci-fi, but in a sense, sci-fi, but in a sense also low-tech vibes, essentially. That said, though, again, a lot do take inspiration from this, in a sense, the franchise itself, and I know what you're thinking, but Jova, obviously a franchise should take inspiration from its own installments. No, I mean, later on, the franchise kind of tries to recapture the magic to, shall we say, varying degrees.
What's the story, Mother? Yeah, speaking of Mother, let's check who she's voiced by. Internal computer. Helen Horton. Does she hear? Ooh. Let me see. Yeah, outside of this movie, I don't recognize anything else she did, but she did stuff up until the early 90s. Also, I forgot to mention, because we were there, John Hurt, the same year as this, if I recall correctly, actually no, 1 year before, he was in both the animated version of Watership Down and the Ralph Bakshi versions of Lord of the Rings. Yeah, where he was voicing
bad.
Aragorn. Let's see.
Yeah, primarily at this point, Sigourney Weaver at best had like small parts in some movies, and she was mainly a stage actress.
So this was basically her career launcher, and to be fair, it did work out. Let's see. Yafet Kotto passed away in 2021. I did not knew. Man, a lot of people from this movie are dead now. He had started instead acting roughly 15 years before. I don't really recognize almost anything also from him. But after this... oh, it was in Freddy's Dead: The Final Nightmare. Also, of course, he was in one episode of Murder, She Wrote. Of course.
Who hasn't been at this point?
Well,
okay,
a couple of
what?
people at the very least I can think of that have skipped that. And it's not really something that, you should be ashamed of.
Oh, no, absolutely. It's fine. It's just, I do notice that a lot of actors around that time were in there, which, to be fair, as a Monk fan, I'm not too
Like I
shocked by
said,
that.
my favorite bit was when Mark Hamill was in one episode and he turned out to be the killer. Even back then, the poor fucker could not escape being typecast as a villain.
Like, I guess that's the ironic thing. He did not get Star Wars typecast, but he got pretty much typecast to actually live up to his father's regime.
Alright, the other woman in the crew is played by Veronica Cartwright, which has started working since the 50s, actually. Oh, she was in The Birds, Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. I forgot which
Okay,
role
so
was
she's
that.
a bit of a horror vet.
Oh, she was in Scary Movie 2 after this.
Okay, I would not be. Did Scary Movie 2 have any alien homages in it?
Possible. I don't remember. It's been a long time since I saw that. She has been acting, as early. Oh, even this year, she has been, in movies and video games. A couple of video games, but more recently, she was in TV stuff like A Man on the Inside and Gotham Knights, as in this series, Gotham Knights. Anyway, the point, just to mention what's going on, the point is that the ship Nostromo, is actually found an unidentified object, and Mother has decided to tell them to give it a look. Since it was the tradition of the time, thanks to stuff, for example, like Star Wars, the Nostromo is basically a toy, which is, filmed in such a way to make it more seamless.
I wonder if part of the reason Fox greenlit this movie was because they wanted a sci-fi franchise that they could get more of the money from than Star Wars.
Yeah, they will want to. My guess is that they wanted to ride the tide, but at the same time, Ridley Scott wanted to make a movie specifically catering for adults, R-rated stuff, and they wanted to reach that kind of compromise.
It's funny because nowadays Star Wars has grown to a point where you could pretty much just make your own little horror spin-off for it, essentially.
And in case you're wondering, okay, while it is perfectly custom for any sci-fi story worth its salt to have any docking scene and having the aesthetic to be as phallic as it can be, it takes an extra step in this, and you will see not too long from now, because one of the major inspiration was, of course, the art of artist and sculptor H.R. Giger.
In fact, I believe they specifically involved him for this project, too.
Yeah, funnily enough, the same year this film came out, in terms of Jerry Goldsmith music, Star Trek the Motion Picture also came out.
Mm-hmm. And the score in that one was probably the best part of it, which says a lot. Okay, I tell a lie. Some of the visuals are genuinely breathtaking, but the problem was more like, the lingering on them.
Which, I do find it funny. Like, I get it. The Fox were probably sharing some of the grosser Star Wars, which, inspired this and that and that. But I do wonder why they didn't bank too much with this one. My best guess would be that, they thought, oh, a horror film wouldn't do that well. What I find weird about this is that this was during the point where the highest grossing movie of all time was Jaws, if I recall correctly, at that point in time. I guess the idea was that, with this running alongside with Star Wars, they wanted to balance out their budgets enough. That's my best guess.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, guys, let's land our Christmas lights with studio lights taped onto it.
I am. Now, what surprises me much more is that Fox didn't maybe go to Lucasfilm and say, hey, can we maybe share a little bit of the effects there? Which,
Let us
okay, maybe
industrialize the magic. Well, to be fair, there is a lot of similar thought process in the making of, the special effects in this.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, let's check the other two crew members that we haven't checked yet. Harry Dean Stanton, which I did strongly remember from somewhere else, but he's also started acting in the 50s. Yeah, he did a lot of movies, but I don't recognize much of the stuff he did before this. He was in Christine after it, the 83 John Carpenter movie did last year. Oh god, he was Braveheart Lion in the Care Bears movie? What?
Oh, God bless him. I mean, the sad thing is, apparently that was the better horse to back than Disney at the time, so congrats for choosing well, my dude.
He was obviously in Twin Peaks.
Mm-hmm. One thing I really do like about this movie that sadly not all horror films remember to do is we get a good chunk of just seeing what these guys' daily life is like, helping us get in touch with the characters, getting to know them better, and also being able to sense when something isn't right when things obviously go haywire.
Again, these are not, trained Marines or, government officials or anything. These are just, delivery people. So,
It's quite interesting, honestly, how this series would end up becoming very intertwined with Predator, which has, like, the complete opposite of start.
it's complicated the way these two franchises crossed over. Again, the Xenomorphs calling Predator 2 was supposed to be just an Easter egg, but then people and consequently Fox smelled the opportunity and bought into it. But I think I mentioned it in the past. It ran with the problem that the Predator movies are set in the past of the Alien franchise. So you kind of at one point have to justify a couple of events intermingling, and the fact that virtually no characters from the different franchises can be, directly be in contact with each other unless some specific shenanigans happen.
It's kind of funny in hindsight, since by this point the Alien franchise has gone all over the place in the timeline, essentially.
Yeah, one of the consequences was retroactively say that humanity had contact with the Xenomorphs already by the time that the Predator movies take place.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let me check. The last remaining person of our cast, at least for the crew, is our captain, Tom Skerritt. He started instead acting in the 60s, early 60s. Oh, it was in MASH. After this, he was in Top Gun. I think I remember his role. Poltergeist 3. Oh god. Stephen King's Desperation. And he's still acting to this very day. This year he was in a movie called Broke.
Good for him.
Worth noting that this first movie was partially recreated for the DLC of Alien Isolation, and barring Ian Holmes, every other single actor from the Nostromo crew did reprise their role. It's actually pretty cool.
Very nice. Do they have, let me guess, they have you play as Ripley for it,
If I
don't
recall
they?
correct, if I recall correctly, you can switch between the different members, but it's been a while since I've actually seen it. Lovely. I can't believe movies have to put up a woman that's not very
Yeah.
likable.
I mean, she's talking as loud as she can, considering all the blowing steam around.
Ah, but that isn't smoke clips. That's steam. Steam from the steam xenomorphs we're having.
Yeah. Now, from what I understand, apparently they went out of their way to get a woman who was not a model for this role, specifically just someone who was plain and ordinary looking. And Sigourney Weaver apparently fit the bill.
That's gonna be the that's probably gonna be the next really bad Alien movie where the bad guy wants to eat one of the xenomorphs and gain their power or something.
I mean, Reeves, you told me that you've seen the other movies. Resurrection comes very close to that.
Yes, oh god, with Chucky himself as a quack scientist. And yet, I'm gonna say it, I can't bring myself to hate real Alien Resurrection. Like,
I mean, I can
wow.
find a good reason from behind the scenes stuff, but yeah.
Yeah, behind the scenes stuff. But actually watching that movie, do not get me wrong, it has problems. It does some pretty stupid stuff. But maybe it's just because I hate Alien 3 all the more that Alien Resurrection at least feels like something that's a candid enough, funny, bad movie ride. Like, it's something I can enjoy.
When I say I've seen the movies, I mean their theatrical cuts. I haven't seen the extended version. So
I don't remember if Resurrection had a director's cut. Let me see.
I mean, who knows? Maybe the assembly cut of Alien 3 is better.
I'm sorry.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Anyway, I checked. No, Resurrection does not have a director's cut, so we should be fine with that.
And yes, like many things in this movie, that ship that they are studying is indeed phallic.
Everything in the future is a sexual, representation.
It's a showing of how we come to terms with our sexuality.
Yeah, this film might as well have been called Freud.
Well, honestly, it looks more like a donut.
So I guess I might as well ask the question. If we're comparing this to Predator, which has had the rockier production history and which is in a better
Well, you
stance
mean
at the
in terms
moment?
of a franchise or first movie?
Franchise?
Oh, I think Alien, but only for the sheer, fact that they had more movies to deal with, and as a result, more difficulties since pretty much the beginning. Predator, when you get down to it, the only major problems it had were trying to, call back Arnold Schwarzenegger to reprise his role and him not responding. But other than that, when it came to development cycles, the movies went on pretty much, as straightforward as it could be. It's just that we
I
got,
mean,
a couple of bad apples.
yeah, like it's
Yeah.
like how in terms of like production, that the most I can think of was when with the Predator a few days before the picture was locked up.
With, Shane Black's
Yeah,
friend.
Olivia Wilde brought up that 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 prick was in the movie. Is they brought up his criminal record and Fox cut the scene out.
Remember, Jova, Alien in comparison, okay, Aliens was already a more straightforward kind of deal, but like I said, Alien 3 had was a symptom of the politics behind, how things were worked at Fox back then, because the story behind how it was made, it's almost as fascinating as, the one for Alan Dr. Miro, just with less, people getting injured. It's more of a case of a fuck ton of scripts were written, people circling around, and a fuck ton of money being wasted.
Yeah, and it was apparently not the best point for David Fincher to launch his career off either, since
Just a
this
job
was
that he
before.
took. But mind you,
Yeah.
keep in mind, there were so many scripts and so many perfectly good, viable ideas that at least one of them was actually adapted properly into a comic form by Dark Horse.
I swear to God, I could make a whole multiverse out of all the movies that apparently went at some point. You know what? Let's hand off our comic book series to Dark Horse. Like, Dark Horse seemed to just nab
Okay.
those things up like Pokemon.
This particular structure, piqued the curiosity of many fans for years because, it was never explained how it was. Was it a telescope, a resting chamber, something else entirely, a cannon, a different type of machine? It's deliberately done with this design to be ambiguous and mysterious to keep up the interest.
It is known as the Space Jockey. It's a good mystery. I'm sure
It
it'll
is
have
quite
very-
literally Alien, TM.
Okay. I forget why it was codenamed the Space Jockey. I guess because it kind of looks like from some angles it's riding a horse.
I guess. I'm sure it's not too much of a problem.
Interesting mysteries. With no doubt a satisfying answer. Smart.
I would normally question instead the title of a movie because it's a bit too oversimplistic, just, Alien. But again, this was the end of 70s, where the blockbuster formula had just begun properly, and sci-fi movies were no stranger to have really bad, overly simplified title. There is one that I keep mentioning a couple of times, that is about giant ants, and what is called? Them, with an exclamation mark. So dumb.
I swear, it was kind of the meta at some point, the zeitgeist, to basically go with the most minimalistic title to leave everything pretty much up to imagination.
I'm so glad Jordan Peele brought that back.
Okay, to his credit, his movies are for the most part good enough, but
it's the principle of the thing, Jova. The intent behind making, like if you. What's it called? Not Us, that is a bit more explanation, but Nope takes the cake for, the baddest title in relation to what's going on in the movie. That is criminal.
Get it? Because it's a scene that would make you nope out of it. Look, I love Jordan Peele, but even that one was kind of a bit like, I don't want to call it trend chasing, but it felt like it had the very potential to be dated.
So what's next? Is he gonna make a romantic tragedy film called Goodbye or something?
It's almost like that
Possible.
other skit from Cat the Icarus where he said, "Oh no, it's the sequel of Oh no."
Oh no.
So yeah, basically this whole structure here is, well, alien to them.
That's the title of the movie.
Yeah, you can just like in the more modern context, you will have with the character, one character say, "Ripley, did you see this? This is quite alien."
Now, for as much as I joked about the space jockey and the revelation of the past behind it, apparently comics were already trying to tackle that too.
Yeah, similar to the Predator, comic line, the Alien comics were trying to expand the lore and give you an answer to the unresolved mysteries.
Now, how canon the Alien comics are is definitely a mystery to me.
I don't remember, unfortunately.
Like Predator, I have faint memory of. I don't think I ever got around to checking Alien
I know that
comics.
similar to the Predator movies, stuff that shows up in later Alien movies were borrowed partially from the comic lines.
Mm-hmm.
Don't worry, it's just the fog machine that is doing that.
Whoopsie! Careful there, Kane. You're played by the most prominent actor. We can't have you die early.
At this point, wasn't the most prominent actor the guy playing the captain?
Yeah,
I'm
Tom
pretty sure that,
Skerritt.
oh, right. Tom. But, like, if I recall correctly, John Hurt was up there as Kane, too, to be
Again,
fair.
outside of, Sigourney Weaver, pretty much everyone else was, on a higher degree of knowledge.
I'm surprised that I was looking up Tom Skerritt. He's 92 and he's apparently still active.
Yeah, like I said, he was in a movie this year called Broke.
Now, to his credit, he's not supposedly a super smart scientist who should know better than to touch this thing, so he gets some.
I can't imagine what you're saying with that, Drova. We'll get there.
Oh boy, will we ever. Oh, congratulations.
It's a chicken breast by the looks of it.
And it's got your face.
I'm really glad I didn't eat chicken for my tea tonight.
Cook it properly, Dweebs. Jesus, don't eat raw chicken, please.
No, I had pork belly. I don't think any film in this series has a creature in an egg that resembles pork belly.
I don't remember.
I like how they emphasize also that, yes, in space, you cannot hear him scream.
Well, that's the tagline of the poster. So... Yeah, another thing is that in hindsight, we do know, thanks to the other movies and, the fact that this movie is very old at this point, practically almost 50 years old. But back when it was released, people were not expecting Ripley to be the protagonist, and to be fair, as showcased, in these initial scenes and for a good while, this is still an ensemble piece where every single member of the Nostromo crew is important to some degree.
The difference was that Ripley seemed like a character who was set to die. She was played by the least known actress, and Ripley's a bit callous, shall we say. Now, mind you, she follows the orders to the book, essentially. And the typical jurisdiction dictates that they have to leave Kane behind since he is most likely contaminated. This may seem callous, but trust me, it'll turn out she had the right idea in the first place. However, the captain, seeming like, well, the good guy at the time, shall we say, deems no, we're not leaving Kane behind. How good of him.
This is also partially reflected in the role of the crew. Ripley is specifically labeled as a warrant officer, which, again, I know that these guys are basically space truckers and everything, but when it comes to, the entire crew, she's possibly the most expendable. So
Yeah. It's not that they don't care about her, but let's just say they don't care deeply for her.
it's
in
a
the
bit
grand
similar to
scheme.
what John Carpenter did when reworking the roles for the people in the outpost for The Thing, where he made McCready, instead of a scientist, the helicopter pilot.
So yeah, Kane's got a little something on his face there.
We just need to, snip a bit, and we should be able to.
Yes, be careful.
Hmm.
And breaking his neck.
Assuming it doesn't strangle him first. And yeah, like Ripley asks, why don't we freeze this guy first, actually?
They
I think
probably
it was
don't want
Yaphet.
to take risks.
Wasn't that Yaphet Koto's character asking?
I haven't noticed. Dual scan thing. Oh, see, it's a considerate creature.
Uh, so supposedly a symbiotic relationship. So it's pumping apparently oxygen into him.
Alright, let's go.
I don't think that's the best idea.
I mean, okay, Ripley arguably had the better one, just potentially freeze it and, wait until you get back home. But, gonna need to try potentially to save him now. There.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, because we're
Oh.
we're operating on Hollywood acid logic that this creature, entire blood is so acidic that it can tear the entire structure of the spaceship apart. I know that the Nostromo is not super high tech in that front, but Jesus Christ.
The idea, okay, to be fair, given that we see this acid later eat through proper space stations and everything, apparently the acid is just that strong. Again, Robot Chicken played it to its natural conclusion that if it's truly that strong, it should pretty much make a hole through just about every single surface.
Quick, get a cup or something. That won't work, sir.
Okay.
Fun fact about Stanton, his first words to Scott during his audition were, "I don't like sci-fi or monster movies." This apparently amused Scott enough to actually take it upon himself to convince Stanton to take the role, basically by reassuring him that Alien would actually be more of a thriller.
And I mean, to be fair, if you see him, his role is the more straightforward one. If anything, his role is the one that popularized the whole space trucker that, rather than using sci-fi stuff, looks like a 60s to 80s US trucker.
Wow, my favorite Agatha Christie novel, Poirot and the Face-Hugging Alien.
Okay, if I recall correctly, later stuff building off of his crew in other material has, I think, retconned it that they were very nostalgic for the old days, and that's why they dress like this compared to a lot of other installments in Alien, which definitely seem a lot more futuristic.
They still have the low tech kind of thing going on. You will see that both in the sequels, not all of them, but most of the sequels, and to an extent also the side materials like the video games.
I do
It's
find it
more like
funny
it's
enough.
more like the prequels that both Prometheus and Alien Covenant that decided to say a bit fuck it.
Now, I guess my best guess would be that even when we get futuristic tech, well, a lot of people will only be able to afford the older stuff that uses computers from the 80s, by the looks of it. Christ. But yeah, I presume one of the things that probably helped the budget was that, as opposed to having to shoot on location, they pretty much were able to make their own locations in one studio for the most part.
The movie still required a lot of, set construction and special effects, but that's the only thing that they really needed instead of actually having to go on different location. And to be fair, if I remember correctly, I don't remember how much of adjusting for inflation, but it was still the end of the 70s, so $14 million budget for back then was still relatively, substantial. If you recall, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, or Charlie, I forgot, the one where we commented on, the 70s version, did that
That one
also
totally was
did
a
also had
shock
a
effect.
relatively low budget, but a lot of practical effects, behind it. So it was just, the way things costed at the time.
My best guess would be the reason they had confidence enough in this was, again, the fact that at the time, the highest grossing movie
Oh no,
up until Star
it's an
Wars.
actual thing confirmed. The Fox did not wanted this movie up until Star Wars became successful.
Yep. And again, before Star Wars, Jaws was the highest grossing film, which, that was a horror film, so it showed that there was a market for horror
Well,
movies.
even outside of that, the third wheel of that period was The Exorcist, which was also horror.
Now, was this movie rated R, though? Because that would be the funny thing that
Um,
sets it apart.
yes, Jova, it definitely is. Outside of the swearing, because it wasn't just one F-bomb, later on we'll have actually proper gore. Ridley Scott, was more of a do things by yourself kind of guy.
Definitely.
I mean, he still is. I mean, he's 80. He's in his late 80s and he's still doing films.
I mean specifically in a sense of rather than being charms with the higher ups in Hollywood, had to pull himself by the bootstraps.
Yeah. Like at the time of recording, he's 87. Was there something in South Shields that gave him the stamina and long life?
Clearly, that's something in the water.
And then we got Mel Brooks, who will indeed be starring in the long-awaited sequel to Spaceballs. Oh, it's funny I mentioned Spaceballs, actually, since that movie definitely has a throwback to this one.
Mm-hmm. The creature, which we'll later know is called a facehugger, because, that's what it does, seems to actually be gone. Dust in the
Yep.
wind.
And Kane seems to be fine. Although, that being said, given the fact that a creature that latches onto people's faces is apparently out and on the loose, I would understand being just a bit nervous. So where is our missing guest?
It's like one of those situations where you find a spider, you want to kill it, but when you turn, it's gone and you don't know where it went.
Yeah, only this spider is about as big as your
Acidic.
head and can give you a deadly kiss.
Okay, we needed that jump scare.
Yes, that's right, audience. The titular alien is indeed this facehugger. And that's as bad as it gets.
Wait, we can't call the film Alien because there's more than one alien in this film. Shouldn't this film be called Aliens?
That's the sequel instead, Weebs.
No, we should. That film should be called Aliens with two S's.
I think, to be fair, Weebs, you could be saying that it's referred to the species as a whole.
Yeah. And look, to be
it's
fair,
an alien thing.
As far as we knew with this first movie, it was just one facehugger, and a lot of people do kind of consider facehuggers basically
it's
the
behind me,
preliminary
isn't it?
Woo! Let me guess, they totally dropped that prop onto Sigourney Weaver's
I
shoulder.
don't remember, but I think so, because there is a lot of improvised method acting that Ridley Scott loved to do with the cast.
And it's still a bit alive.
No, it's just reflex.
Not. Yep.
It's like when you cut a lizard's tail.
Are you sure it's dead?
And of course, because again we're continuing with the Geiger, symbology, it's supposed to actually, resemble a fucking vagina.
Yes, and oh boy, what it does to people's mouths that it latches onto.
Bring the best gynecologist in the world.
Yeah, the first time we've encountered a species like this that looks like it literally face fucks you. Please, space zombies. Dallas, you've been listening to your space Scientology fantasies way too much.
Oh, don't get me started with that, Drova. I'm getting Dead Space flashbacks with it.
Wait, seriously?
Remember, Drova, the Church of Unitology is a thing in the
world. God, that's right.
And it has space zombies, technically. We'll get there too.
Let's be honest, none of this is standard procedure. So basically, despite the fact that Tom's supposed to be the captain here, it seems like Science Officer Ash might be the one actually calling the shots.
You're the captain, but you don't trust anybody. That's a fine example of leadership we got here.
Again, to be fair, this was supposed to be just a routine job with the crew sleeping throughout the entirety of it. It was not expected.
I was thinking to myself while that scene was going on, it's like, in like a meta sense, the guy's like, Sigourney, you're the most unknown actress here. Will you stop? Why is anyone talking sense?
Incidentally, Ian Holm, who plays Ash, would later play J. Bruce Ismay in SOS Titanic of the same year. He was also in The Fifth Element. Neat. See, it's all good now, guys. We can go home.
Clearly.
But yeah, no, that's a thing. We're kind of almost halfway through the movie, and despite a
Like
bit of
over an hour
scares from the
left.
face hugger, it seems like things are relatively fine. Yeah. Well, at least it's just 10 months and not years.
Oh. I was just going to say, sorry, did I say months? I meant years.
Oops.
Yeah, basically, Veronica Cartwright plays Lambert, and she's the navigator who pretty much deems the step of that.
Also, to continue the thing that we mentioned in a couple of other movies, the different language title in this are not that many, but they're still a bit baffling. In Russia, this is called The Stranger. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
In Turkey, The Creature, which, okay, cheesy sci-fi, but looks more like, a universal monster horror movie. And in Israel, this is called The Eighth Passenger. Because get it? The alien is the eighth passenger on the crew. Ha ha ha.
Okay, was there any country that called this the thing?
No, like I said, those are the only 3 title changes.
So yeah, as a side effect, Kane seems to have a bit of memory issues.
Oh.
But otherwise seems to be just fine.
Speaking of foreign titles and stuff, I've just seen the Japanese poster for this movie.
Does it have the xenomorph in a chibi pose or something?
No, but I don't know. I'm not particularly fond of the way the poster's constructed.
In the meantime, just to mention, this is one of occasions of method acting. Outside of the guy who got got face tag, everyone else was told that there's just supposed to be at the dinner scene, and he's gonna, feel sick right now, and they just need to, put it on the table and go with there. So all the reactions that you're about to see from everyone else is genuine.
Yeah, apparently only John Hurt knew fully what was going to happen.
Knowing what we do know, I'm surprised Ian Holm was included on that, but probably to help with the twist.
I'm not sure that's going to help much.
Here you go, Veronica Cartwright, screaming and recording like that, that's actually genuine from her.
Congratulations, it's a beautiful baby boy.
Adorable.
Yeah, I mean, it killed the guy, but...
And I do believe we have a winner for our most phallic-looking design so far.
I mean, at the very least, the black guy did not die first. Well, it was mentioned in interviews that... look at him go. It was mentioned in interviews that, according to Ridley Scott, each role was specifically tailored that could be played by anyone, regardless of gender or ethnicity. So, Ripley landing the score for the role tied to Sigourney Weaver, that was just a happy coincidence.
There's a Japanese poster for you.
Let me see.
All right.
I mean, I've seen worse. Sure,
it's Ripley's derp face, that's what.
It's a bit misleading because it seems to be hinting at the horrors of space more than anything, but I've seen far worse.
Ripley looking up kind of implies it's your typical alien invasions. They're coming from
It's
the
more the
skies
case
sort
that
of
they
thing.
took stills from the movie and just plastered there, which is a bit lazy, admittedly. But I get the idea it was a case of, this was the marketing team, what was given to them.
So yeah, the inner hatch is sealed, which means that whatever's in there should hopefully not get out.
Absolutely. Poof.
Okay, so
Bye,
that's
John
John Hurt
Hurt.
out of the movie.
John Hurt was not the imposter. I mean, I had to say it.
Yeah.
Don't worry, he will go on to be reincarnated as the Doctor.
For not that long of a period of time, just so he can actually have the prestigious honor of having, exterminated almost the entirety of the Dalek species.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a prod. This is also a consistent thing that not the entirety of the franchise, but most situations to cement the horror factor will keep in. The fact that the xenomorph, the name of a species, while still killable if you have the right equipment, for most part is very clever in resisting damage or avoid it. So the human characters tend to be usually in a disadvantage, and at best they can only just repel it for a bit.
Mm-hmm.
I swear I've heard that sound effect in other movies.
Probably a stock one that they kept. Remember, the 60s and 70s were a period of pioneering a lot of bizarre, electric-like sound effects. So
Alright, so let's split up, gang. Now, to their credit, it's at least two major groups, but yeah, as you can imagine, splitting up is going to lead to things getting a little bit spooky. But look, at the very least, we're just dealing with basically an angry snake. As long as it doesn't get any bigger than that, we should be a-okay.
absolutely.
Very, very quiet. We're hunting aliens.
Totally.
Only this film were released by Warner Brothers.
Okay, I'm trying to remember. I know there was that time where Looney Tunes were crossing over with everything. I forget if they ever did that pseudo crossover with aliens or not.
I mean, it might have been parodied in one short or two, but I'm pretty confident it was probably instead referenced in The Simpsons before that.
Now, interestingly enough, I won't spoil the entire gag, but let's just say Aliens kind of did an unintentional Looney Tunes crossover in a certain parody, which John Hurt also happens to be in. If you know, you know, but again, I'll leave that as a surprise for when we cover that movie. Yes, a net against the long, thin, snake-like being that can weave in and out.
I mean, that's the equipment that he had to rely on.
Ah! Oh my god, it's an alien!
Cat!
No, it's just Goose. But yeah, that's Ripley's cat, Jones. Well, okay, technically he's the ship's cat, but I digress. Because every spaceship does need a comfort cat.
Well, according to what Shiri told me, ginger cats tend to be not having every single neuron, in their brain functioning. So, I'm not sure it's the kind of species you want to take for a journey like this.
Well, apparently the crew decided a ginger cat was what it would be. Which is interesting given some of Jones's mannerisms in this movie. There's been some people who debate whether or not they trained the cat, but apparently what this movie ironically got was probably one of the best performances visually from a cat that you'll see for quite some time. Assuming it is still in the theatrical cut.
Will the cat live?
And will this one guy who went on from the rest of the group live too? But hey, look, there's the cat.
Why did they bring
Yeah,
a cat with them on this mission?
Remember, it's apparently their mascot or something.
Oh boy. Looks like someone's been shedding.
I wonder if I could eat it.
I was gonna say for a second there, I thought it was gonna eat it.
How delicious.
I mean,
Might have bits of acid in it though.
it also depends on the creature. Like, for example, we're talking about chicken. I argue, the skin of a chicken is possibly the most tasty part, if you ask me.
Yum yum.
I'm sorry, buddy. You got it the wrong set. This is the Hellraiser set. You're supposed to go, the other room.
Yeah.
What year was the first Hellraiser? I forgot.
I'll check.
I think 82.
The first one came out in 1986.
Oh, okay, way ahead then.
1987. That was when the first one came out. Sorry.
Still, in relation to this, that's what I was wondering. To be fair, Clive Barker had done a lot of stuff even before that.
Hard to tell where the water begins and his sweat ends.
If I recall correctly, I don't remember if it's mentioned, but it's like condensed water from the refrigerating units or something. That's why it almost looks like it's raining. Hmm.
There he is.
You got something behind you, mate. Yeah, definitely something behind you.
How do you not hear it?
Well, that's one of the strong points of the xenomorph, stealth, believe it or not. Despite the hissing sound, they can be pretty sneaky in terms of actually moving from one place to another without emitting that much sound. And also, yeah, they have a mouth inside their mouth. Yo, dog. So, for some, the person inside the suit of the xenomorph is Bolaji Badejo. I think that's Badejo, which a Nigerian visual artist and actor. This is his only credited role, as far as I understand. And for extra method acting, Ridley Scott made sure that the rest of the crew and him will actually, eat and, having recreation in different, separated rooms so that it would not build up, camaraderie and trust between them, so it could create a better sense of tension between the two. It's a bit dickish, admittedly, especially for the poor guy, which had to basically stand alone all the time. But I get what he was trying to do. I just think there should have been a better way.
From what I can attribute, really, Ridley Scott seems like a guy who means well, but
Like, it's not
holy
Jared
cow,
Leto level method acting, I will say that,
no,
but still.
he unlike Jared Leto, I can believe Ridley Scott always means well. However, his methods really can make him seem like someone who's maybe a bit too callous at times.
But again, Hollywood has always had, that kind of mentality. Remember what Alfred Hitchcock was also a bit of a perfectionist on his own. So
There's definitely, yeah, like at some point there's a big time era divide where, where directors were eventually expected to, treat their actors like human beings, method acting be damned. But, at some point it was basically the Wild West and you just hoped you got a good enough director for that.
and besides, this is still relatively tame method acting compared to what's gonna happen, in the future movies. Unfortunately.
Oh boy, yeah. But yeah, speaking of method acting, has it been confirmed yet that they specifically induced method acting with the cat? Because like I mentioned, Jonesy has some interesting facial views
It's
that
not
seem like they were
mentioned.
directed specifically
Maybe it
for
was
that.
just a trained cat that they had.
That's possible. Okay,
Terminate
mother, how do we
Alien
get out of this?
TM.
Unable to compute. Yep. Basically the computer went, well, I got nothing. Good
I'm
luck,
sorry.
guys.
I'm sorry, Captain. I'm afraid I cannot do that.
It was at this point the captain was regretting bringing
What
Kane back
can I
aboard.
do anything?
Well, crud. Good luck at the casino. Bye. Self-terminate.
It's nice to know that in almost 50 years we have actually learned to not trust AIs. Oh wait, we are never going into space at this rate.
Although, if this is what's waiting for us out in space, is that a blessing or a curse?
Well, depends on who do you encounter and who encounters it. Also, yeah, all the stories, which, to be fair, will become a bit later popular, where the good guy tends to use the air duct to actually infiltrate the villain's lair in order to pass undetected. In this case, it's the creature who's doing that. So,
Yep.
how unfortunate.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, indeed.
Well, this film was directed by a Brit and is filmed in the UK.
Huh. So it is. Again, like, I wouldn't necessarily know because it's not shot on location. Well, it doesn't have to be shot on location for obvious reasons, but yeah. I think one shot they may have done on location was like the astronaut sequences. Principal photography done at Pinewood Studios and Shepperton Studios near London.
Yeah, I think even the set of the planet was recreated in the studio instead of actually being filmed on, say, in Tunisia, like Star Wars did.
I guess it makes sense, keep it as controlled as possible. With
Especially
the
because,
environment.
remember, the model of the Nostromo is still a toy, so as much as grandiose it looked on camera, it probably still was like a very confined area that they filmed in. Also, Dweebs, you mentioned that one of the actors was in a James Bond movie. Can you remind me of which?
Yaphet Koto, he was the villain in Live and Let Die.
Is that the movie with Baron Samedi in it?
Yeah.
Okay, then I remember that well. It's actually one of the few Bond movies that implies the supernatural is a thing. So yeah, unfortunately, the radar machine that they had malfunctions at the worst possible time. Yeah.
I like how they pretty much have started with flamethrowers. That's kind of where it took the point of the crew and the thing from another world to get to.
Yeah, it's understandable.
Loud and clear, sir. Well, crud.
The problem is that this particular, aggression from the alien is actually pretty clever because it's they're actually to quote Spock, they're having two-dimensional thinking, while instead the air duct operates on a 3D environment. So, they were thinking that the alien was actually, near him, but instead it was under him, and he just wanted a hug.
Surprise! You know how my dad liked to face hug. I like to full hug.
And that's the captain out of the movie, meaning that now the crew is a bit in disarray.
Yep.
That looks like one of those, that maze game prank where it has this really scary face at the end of it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Reminded me of that.
The xenomorph jump scare. Ripley, how about you set sail and nuke the place out of orbit? Oh wait, no, you cannot do that here.
Also, I'm the black guy here. I know I'd lose out on that. Although, again, to his credit, outliving even the captain.
So far he's holding out. No, if
Yeah.
anything, it was more like the late 80s and early 90s that had the obsession of killing the black guy first, when you really get down to it. Oh, I know this one, Ripley. If it bleeds, we can kill it. Oh, no, wait, that's wrong.
Oh yes, that's wise. Go on your own.
We said
It works.
split into pairs.
Lovely.
How are you now?
I need to quote Seto Kaga from the English dub of Pyramid of Light. Maybe you should be collating to get a new job!
So, oh no, it's been a bit of a rough day.
Definitely. What was that prancing step?
I guess that's what a space trucker thinks that the military formulate like.
I mean, then again, we will see starting from the next movie how the Space Marines of this universe operate, and, well, it
Oh,
won't
yeah.
be that much better.
Fun fact about the whole bit where Ripley told Parker to shut up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yaphet Kotto did a lot of improv acting on this movie. Ridley Scott went with it and advised him to antagonize Sigourney Weaver so that the conflict would be more believable.
I swear, the
reason why Weaver was yelled "shut up" with such ferocity was because Yaphet Kotto talked over her dialogue so many times, and she was fed up with it. And also, Weaver wasn't used to improv since she was from the stage.
Mm-hmm.
Kotto and Scott did that so that she could actually assert authority over the remaining cast who weren't doing it to be dicks.
I swear, it does sound. The making of this movie sounds kind of like an honest to God. So,
Ensure return of organs for analysis. What the hell? Crew
expendable.
Lovely. Wait, you mean
Oh,
to
hey,
tell me
Ash.
that... Oh, Jesus. Wait, you mean to tell me that the company we were working on is actually evil? I'm so glad that we have learned not to trust them in 50 years. Like, it's amazing how a lot of sci-fi writers for decades screamed in our faces that this is the future that awaits us if we actually do, and we still learn nothing.
The cyberpunks were right, goddammit. So, yeah, one could say that this ship might actually be the scene for something of an experiment.
I'm sorry, Ripley. I cannot let you do that.
If Red Brown was here, you could say that it's a space alien, space alien, space mutiny.
Eh.
Uh. Uh-oh. Yeah, it seems that there's more to Ash than meets the eye.
Mm-hmm.
Ow.
And he's kind of gone crazy.
And running off a weird liquid. Could be sweat, but it's a little too thick and white. 360-degree shot, thank you.
Okay then.
Ah, there's another reason for this to be rated R, I guess.
Yeah. The Disneyest of movies. Have Sora question what are those pictures in the Kingdom Hearts world. But again, if Alien ever gets to be represented, it probably would be from something like either like stuff like Aliens, which has a more open kind of space.
Yeah, when it comes to the Alien franchise, it's one of those cases where
Ash,
some people.
Buddy,
Oh.
I'm pretty sure there were better ways to choke her than a fucking magazine like this.
That surprising time where the nerd is actually a lot stronger than he looks.
I'm sure Ian Holm had a great bit of fun doing this scene.
I
He just
bet.
stuffed his head with milk or something and told him just powder everything while you spin around.
So yes, it turns out he is actually not human, but an android. That's right, an alien wasn't the only twist in this movie. One of our crew members is an imposter.
And they did not even knew. Remember, the captain himself told that Ash was just reassigned like 2 days before, lift off.
It was the perfect setup, basically. They had no way of even knowing Ash may have acted a bit robotic, because as far as the captain was concerned, he was the new replacement.
There you go, time to use the prod. And because this is the weirdest kind of future, the interior are not really mechanical but bioorganic.
It's like the Cybermen in the Doctor Who revival. They
Like
have
it's
flesh
not
surrounding their metal heart.
it's not really traditional gore, but it still manages to be really disgusting.
So basically, we're gonna try and hotwire him enough so that he can tell us what's going on without trying to kill us. Let's
So this
just
is
And
why
yeah, for this effect, they had Ian Holmes in the ground with his head sticking out.
Beautiful. I can
Lovely.
explain.
I just drank milk earlier, damn it.
So, yeah, it seems that a lot of what's transpired may not have been just a mere coincidence. I'm pretty sure that's not what Rook would say, but then again, goddamn liar. I don't know, I've heard about this predator species that can apparently tank it pretty well.
This is only the start of, this franchise having androids who have a huge boner for the xenomorphs for no adequate reasons.
Yeah, that's one thing I found a little silly, is like, a lot of movies go into how the xenomorphs are supposedly this pure race who are just, simply pure
Genetically
and
perfect.
perfect.
Yeah,
When,
efficiently I get it, but they're just completely animalistic.
although, according to Resurrection, they're very good at basketball. So maybe they wanted the next trend of Michael Jordan from these guys or something. But yeah, no, like, I'm sorry. For as good as the Xenomorphs are what they do, the movies do constantly show that they are not perfect. And okay, this is one case where I legit don't get people who constantly see it as that. Like, it ain't even like Resident Evil where the biohazards got bigger and badder with each sequence. And yeah, this is something you should get used to in the Alien franchise, setting rooms on fire. Da 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 da. .7 minutes, and we have about
No,
30 something minutes left of movie. So are we going on Frieza time?
Sigourney, you have to say it like Rouge the Bat. 5 minutes should be enough.
Who?
Sigourney Weaver as Rouge the Bat.
No.
I mean, I think she'd be a good voice.
Oh yeah, she'd be a good voice, but I don't think Sigourney Weaver has ever done the seductive spy take before.
Oh.
It's a bit heavy.
Mm-hmm. All right, we can't forget the cats.
I don't remember if it was the first case, but one of the major one of don't leave the animal pet behind.
Which is also
which has
something
been
Metroid
parodied.
took. Yeah, because even Metroid took the mickey out of that by having animals that you could rescue during the self-destruct sequences.
Mm-hmm.
Interestingly enough, it seems that, and this is definitely coincidence, but the actors in real life have so far died in the order that their characters died in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
We have to rescue the cat, guys. He holds together the whole operation. Dr. Jones. That cat has a knack for jump scaring. Behind you.
Oh shit.
Well, I've been in enough horror movies to know where this is going.
So another thing is that the xenomorph, is smart enough to actually put, itself in the way so that the flamethrower, will actually, kill poor Lambert.
Mm-hmm.
Also, something that I checked in the meantime that I did not knew, apparently professional film critics at the time believed that the xenomorph was, did getting bigger and bigger in size as the movie went on after the first, skin shedding. And like, what movie did they watch?
I guess to be fair, the way the film's shot and how he looms even more and more over them can give the idea that it's bigger and bigger. Probably doesn't help that the lighting blends it since it's black and most of the exterior is a pure black. So that would probably be where they got the idea from.
Ow.
I gotta say, out of all of the characters in this movie,
Yes.
Lambert's my least favorite one. Every other character at least tries to do something. All Lambert does is scream like "ah!"
Sadly, won't be the last time something like this happens in the franchise.
To Lambert's credit, she's like the navigator. She's probably the least combat ready of them, so I can kind of get it. I do wonder if also Lambert was really good at knowing how to scream, and that might be part of why she got the role, but yeah, they're dead. Which means it's now just Ripley, Jones, and the creature. Well, okay. Originally, there was going to be a scene where it turned out that Dallas was still alive.
Yeah, but Ripley,
Partially.
that's what happens in kind of the director's cut. I don't remember at which specific point, but I think before Ripley, just abandons the ship, she actually goes into one of the lower rooms of a Nostromo with the flamethrower and finds that two of the members, I forgot which specific ones, are still alive and cocooned onto the wall with a process that seems to imply that that's how the xenomorph, procreates by using, humans as a nutrient host. A concept that would be partially, inspiring for stuff like the Tyrannies in Warhammer 40k, for example. But this is usually generally disregarded until specific, spin-offs. Like I think Aliens Colonial Marines uses that for, its setting. I don't remember because the next movie introduces instead the concept of the Queen, which is the more known one.
Part of why this scene isn't regarded as canon is that this extended scene would also have showcased that, yes, there are actually multiple aliens, whereas for all the danger in this movie, I guess we're supposed to believe that it's only just this one of its kind, essentially. Or at the very least, maybe the last of its kind, since the Wayland. Well, sorry, we don't know the name of the company yet, but basically, the company deemed their mission to get this specimen specifically. As you know, with later stuff, aliens would pretty much make it clear that there are a whole ton of these guys. So, yeah. Basically, we've got ourselves a little countdown before the ship cell detonates.
Which is the other thing that the Metroid games took inspiration from.
And yeah, you can pretty much tell from looking. Okay, it's not as apparent here as it will be by Aliens, but yes, Ridley was also based off of a xenomorph.
Just
It,
more pterodon-like.
Sorry, my child, you were just a little too long with that. 5 minutes. Have a nice day. There's no need for language.
And there's the other thing that Metroid took inspiration from, partially at the very least, have at least one antagonizing thing, also partially inspired by HAL 9000 technically, but, the thing that the film protagonist will go against will be a space computer with a human personality. In that case, Mother
Also,
Brain.
yep, this thing is called Mother.
Because again, well, to be fair, this is expanded in the Metroid Prime games, particularly 3, where it's mentioned that the Space Federation is really, really reliant on those supercomputers.
I swear, the one time the Federation weren't idiots was like Metroid Prime 3. And to be fair, it might
Oh
have
god.
specifically just been that space captain who was an outlier who realizes,
Honestly,
hey,
again, I find it still hilarious that, counting also the original Metroid, even someone as relatively innocent as Nintendo in the 80s was telling us that, over-reliant on AIs and computers was a bad idea. Also,
I think
Jesus Christ, flashing.
this alarm sound effect was reused in Half-Life.
Yeah, it's still a stock sound effect. I think even System Shock 2 had it. I think. But still, also because again, the 80s and 70s, 80s still love to do that. Yeah, this climax has a lot of these obnoxious flashing lights, which is the one reason Shiri is not in for this movie, because almost all of them do have this kind of thing.
even
I do wonder if it's a genuine thing where back then, for the big screen and on old cathode TV, it wasn't as obnoxious as it is in HD format.
that that is definitely probably one of the big reasons aside from the fact that they weren't as aware of it. But yeah, interestingly enough, the xenomorph did not eat Jones.
Which is weird because in future movies it showcased that the xenomorphs had absolutely no problem infecting animals.
Yeah, I think the implication was that she thought it would eat him. Like maybe it couldn't get through because of the cage, but I don't know. I'm pretty sure we've seen
No,
these
the
guys rip
xenomorph
apart literal steel.
between the acid blood and the extra mouth, the xenomorphs can pretty much penetrate any material if they want.
So early installment weirdness.
Or maybe they just don't like cats. What do I know?
True, yeah. I mean, it was a dog that got infected anyway.
Or a bowl, depending on the cut that you see of Alien Cubed.
Oh god, it was a bull in that.
Symbolism,
Right.
Jova. I'll explain when we get there.
Right.
Alright, to quote General Grievous, time to abandon ship. I can kind of see, I guess, in a way, why Fox will try to potentially reach a younger audience because they probably saw this original movie and thought, well, they did use toy-like models for making stuff like the ships and the space sequences. We should try to merchandise this. And keep in mind, this was 2 years after Star Wars, so George Lucas had kind of opened the floodgates in terms of, aggressive, publicity and merchandising off of movies.
I'm not too surprised. Like, even slashers, I think, were also trying to market to kids, despite being rated against them going
yes,
to see.
like the best, Nightmare on Elm Street figure, Sharp Hand Joe. What a lovely explosion.
I thought you couldn't hear anything in space.
Oh, Treves, don't worry. There are countless people on the internet who will actually comment under, for example, let's plays of RTX in space, like say Homeworld, that theoretically they should not have sound effects because in space there should not be sound. It's an argument that gets very obnoxious, and that was even before recent times.
I wonder how many of those people that have sound effects in space in their products moan about other movies not doing that.
Well, there you go. Everything's finally been dealt with.
We're still having like almost 50, less than 50 minutes before the end of the movie, but I'm sure it's mostly just the credits.
Think you might have spoke too soon there, Ripley?
I wouldn't.
It's the jinxing. I don't know about you guys, but I think we're home safe. There you go.
Don't worry, the cat also survived.
Take the cat who's probably traumatized by all that shaking in the cage. He's surprisingly calm from all of that concussions.
Well, now it's just time to go to sleep.
Again.
At least you're not completely alone, Ripley. The cat made it too. As we all know, cats are some of the most caring and loving creatures that will keep you company.
Definitely. Maybe that's the reason why the Xenomorphs did not give a shit. Because, the creature understood that if the cat was infected, the resulting xenomorph, coming out would have been not perfect enough. Instead, just a lazy slob like Garfield.
Pretty much.
Oh, and now we're getting the gratuitous stripping scene. I don't remember how much was this the intention of Sigourney Weaver herself, or if it was just, Ridley Scott be like, yeah, you're supposed to get into the pod, so, let's show some skin to the viewers. But wait a minute.
Something's not right.
Let's take inventory. Bobby Fink, wait a minute. Bobby Fink? Oh shit.
Looks like someone's not on board.
You peeping Tom!
Now, the advantage is that it seems that the Xenomorph is a bit groggy. I guess it was just going to hibernate himself for a bit. So thankfully Ripley is not immediately in danger, but still.
Basically, it seems that this xenomorph was willing to just hitch a ride, even if it meant letting her survive for the time being. But now that she knows it's alive, yeah, no witnesses. I will say one frustrating part about this movie is due to how it's lit. I don't think we ever get a full clear shot of a xenomorph in this movie as a result.
It was also to make sure that the rubber suit that they had did not look too fake. Which we will get a shot later that, does showcase that it's slightly cheap.
By the time of Aliens, I guess they were more okay with showing off the effects.
Basically. Oh, lovely.
Come on, baby. Let me give you a kiss.
No.
Of death.
I think the only other being from the time that actually rivals the xenomorph for that will be Freddy Krueger with his tongue.
You know, never forget the fact that we technically have a predator and alien hybrid. Like
The Predalien, yes.
Just imagine the two sexing each other
That
up.
was one thing that the comics introduced and was eventually canonized by Alien vs. Predator Requiem.
You know, the sad thing is, it was a cool idea.
Wish I
They
could see
somehow-
that. So fucking dark.
Oh, yeah. For all my complaints about the lighting in this movie, that pales in comparison to
Like,
Requiem.
it's not flashy, but Requiem instead is the polar opposite. You can barely see, and keep in mind, it's not like it's a Shakespearean story or anything.
I was going to say pale, Joe, but I would imply we couldn't see anything.
All right. Well, thankfully, her stripping down made it a lot easier to put on this cool, awesome suit for the end, so I guess at least the stripping scene had something of a purpose.
Like, I don't hear that many people complaining these days, so as far as I know, it's not really as problematic as other cases. But still, I think it's worth noticing a bit.
I will say it probably helps that they didn't have her go full naked. Now, if they had her gone full naked, yeah, that would have just blatantly been a...
Jesus, it's like really wearing a disco rave.
That xenomorph really is just content to lay there, unless it's stuck.
Yeah, like I said, it's probably like partially hibernating because went to the assumption that Ripley would also, into cryosleep. But Ripley has an idea.
You know, that's the funny thing. That kind of makes us the equivalent of not so much an epic final battle, but somebody working up the nerve to swat a giant spider on the wall.
And here's the other thing that Dead Space took on, the idea of a tense horror sequence with a lullaby to contrast it. In Dead Space, it's Twinkle Twinkle Little Star.
Well, I'm sure you got it this time.
Pretty sure the xenomorph itself is having a seizure with all the light.
Oh, so that's why the predators never bothered to harness their spinal fluid.
I guess. Hi. Now, in case you're wondering, I don't remember if it was already specifically stated in this first movie, but later on we'll confirm that xenomorphs, yes, can survive in outer space. So just throwing them out of the airlock is not an option. You need to make sure that you actually, kill them. Like in this case.
By doing that?
Barbecuing them.
And they can still take a good dose of punishment after that, too.
Don't you see, Joe, that it's because they're the perfect organisms or something.
Yep, especially the ones that scurry on all fours and are easily outsmarted. Oops.
And this is the final message that Ripley records, if I recall correctly, which will be used as the cornerstone for a lot of future stories. Not just the mainline movies, but also some spin-offs, like, for example, Alien Isolation, which stars Ripley's daughter, and she actually finds this message that Ripley's recording, but her goal is to actually find a way to get to her.
Now, we know she'll be fine, but interestingly enough, it's not even like the movie ends with a guarantee that she even makes it back home. She just has to hope for the best after everything that has happened.
Basically, the movie just stops, basically, because it says, Alien, the xenomorph is done, that's it, movie's over, basically. And this was before the era of sequel baiting at every single opportunity, so, you know.
You just know that in a later era, they totally would have had her have a dream about the xenomorph, and then we'd see a black skeletal hand stroke the case that she's in.
So yeah, that's basically it. No post-credit scene, so Ripley will not be invited to the Predator Initiative for now. Dweebs, final thoughts?
It's a pretty effective horror movie. Again, like I said, the only thing I didn't really like was the one whose only character trait was
Lambert, yeah.
Lambert.
All the others were fun to watch, at least. And yes, hey, the effects still hold up pretty well, even by the standards of 1979.
Mm-hmm.
The music's good. Well, what there is of it, anyway.
Poor Jerry Goldsmith.
Shame he didn't come back for the sequel.
I get the idea his relationship with the franchise had been soured by the presence of Ridley Scott, but even for a sequel that did not have him, instead, had James Cameron, he did not want it to be there.
Well, we'll see what James Horner can do. Honestly, that's really about it. I don't really have a whole lot to say about this. I've said a lot during the course of the commentary.
All right, then.
I will say I look forward to seeing the next movie.
All right, then. Jova.
It's a classic, an absolute classic. It's a staple of the horror genre, pretty much the progenitor of space horror and all the stuff you can do with it. I do wish we could have seen a bit more of the alien in full light, but with that final shot of it out in space, yeah, I kind of do get why they toned it down a bit. The effects would take some time. Thankfully, come 1986, they would be much, much better.
It's funny because I remember something that was told in a review of a different movie altogether for another context, but it's applicable here. This was the period of time that practical effects included stuff like, in this case, the rubber suit that you technically just spend for that, and you will want to show it as much as possible. It will not cost more, unlike today, where a lot of things are in CGI, and the more time they are on screen, the more you're spending on the budget for the movie for the DBFX artists. So it's kind of interesting how technology has moved on in different ways.
It's to a point where people do yearn actually for more practical effects, not just because of the expenses, but because of how CGI is very easy to tell. Don't get me wrong. There still is a use for CGI. Like, obviously, some movies get their best looks thanks to CGI, but practical effects do still have a place in the industry for a good reason as well. As, wow, stuff like Prey is shown.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, this is a classic movie. It has a bit of a minimalistic sense, but it uses that to its favor. Now, how intentional the killing of certain cast members was is up in the air, but Sigourney Weaver, the newcomer of the bunch being the survivors, is a nice subversion and one that actually works well. Not just her being the least known actress, but also kind of being a character who in a lot of horror movies would be the one slated to die, the one who's by the book rules and seems like a bit of a jerk as a result. But no, in the end, she was not the cold, heartless robot. That was instead Ian Holmes' character, literally with Ash. And yeah, the twists and turns all do help make for an experience where you literally cannot guess what's going on next. Every actor pretty much fulfilled their role to a T. So yeah, no, Alien's a classic. If you haven't seen it already and were just listening to our commentary for fun, I recommend you see it. Tio.
Yeah, this is fine. It's definitely a movie from the end of the 70s, not necessarily to a fault, but you can kind of tell is a pioneer of its subgenre, in this case, space horror. That you can make an argument that all those scenes might be a bit too stretched, which is one of the things that the director's cut did. It trimmed a bit, not a lot, but a bit of the scenes, so that instead of cutting away scenes entirely, progression from point A to point B is a bit faster, hence why the total runtime of the director's cut is shorter than the theatrical cut that you just watched, believe it or not, despite the added scene of Ripley discovery what happened to Dallas. So there is that. But aside from that, it's perfectly fine for what it wants to do. It takes advantage of its premise of having a short cast that is to carry the movie on its shoulders. It doesn't go into cliches. The characters are not super smart, but they're not completely stupid. Maybe Lambert, gets herself too much transported by, the panic a couple of times. And I do wonder how much that would have been, Ridley Scott saying, female hysteria, am I right? But we don't really know, So, and the scenario is relatively realistic enough to make you believe anyone in that condition will do that. So, I think it's fine for what it wants to showcase. The xenomorph is a clear threat that the movie establishes to be not invincible, but very tough to deal with, that you cannot just think, just do this and kill it immediately, while the characters are not doing that. There twists and turns around that, actively impede the progress of the characters to the point where it was partially programmed by the android Ash, so that they could, the specimen would be able to be brought back to the company from which these truckers work for, which we haven't mentioned the name yet, the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. They will start being name dropped much more from the next movie onward, believe it or not. But no, again, it's fine. The actors seem to have a good time overall, and this spawned, a multi-million franchise with its ups, its downs, a lot of downs, unfortunately. And these days it seems to be more stabilized as, in the stuff that Disney acquired from Fox, which they managed to work around in some fashion, unlike, say, Home Alone. But, hey, what can you do about it? Now, again, we talked about it, but no, for the time being, I don't think I can conceivably, see a Kingdom Hearts world based on this franchise, mostly because of the tense and R rating stuff. The Xenomorph is a kind of an enemy that would be ideal for a fight, but you kind of need to construct something around, and I don't know if it will work out with what Kingdom Hearts normally tends to do. But again, we have just started from scratch, the franchise. Who knows? Maybe the next movies will provide some ideas that I might forgot, on the way. So when we'll come back to this, we'll see you for the next movie directed by James Cameron, Aliens, or as it's called in my country, believe it or not, Jova, Aliens: The Final Clash. Yeah, totally.
Good sense of humor there. See you next time, folks.
See ya.